Hi there, welcome to my channel. You might notice that I don't really post that regularly, and that is because I have been very sad. So I'm gonna try to keep introductions short and minimal, but basically I went to school in 2020. I was in my, I believe, junior or senior year of college, and I was going to school for art education. I wanted to be an art teacher. That was my calling in life, and then I had to drop out. It just wasn't going to be safe for me to be teaching and then be around my family because kids are a little gross sometimes and cough with their mouths open, and I have a lot of family members who are immunocompromised, so that was just going to be really hard. But yeah, I decided, I'm going to have regular jobs and then integrate art into them if I can. But basically, I'm going to keep doing art as a hobby and have fun with it. And like, if I can make money, awesome. But ultimately, I just enjoy making stuff, right? And as you know, AI kind of took off around that time, like right after the plague. So there was this huge narrative about like, basically artists are obsolete and we're going to replace them and we're going to fire concept artists and we're going to get rid of graphic designers. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So I've basically just been floating around kind of miserable and sad about all this AI stuff for the last few years. And so color me surprised that now there's this huge shift and a huge backlash to the overuse of technology and AI, especially when it comes to the arts. So anyway, to summarize the whole gist of this video is I want to get you guys busy with your hands. I want you to make things. I want to show you guys some projects that are like really accessible. The materials are cheap. And these things will slow your brain down and be good for you. And we can we can fight AI by getting a little bit crafty. All of the hobbies and crafts listed are affordable. You can bring most of these things with you wherever you go, and it's typically pretty easy to source the materials or objects needed to do these crafts or hobbies. Okay, so the first craft we're looking at is embroidery because it is so cheap. You can go to Walmart and get almost everything you need under 10 or buy a kit if you would prefer, but you can also go to a thrift store. You might even have a hoop laying around, and I honestly just used scrap fabric, and I think I already had the friendship thread. This was the first one I made. It was okay. It was inspired by a picture on Pinterest that I found. And then I found these beautiful bags by Catherine Marchenko, these fish bags that were embroidered. And I was like, man, that really looks like Impressionist paintings, like by Van Gogh, And so I looked at these Van Gogh paintings, and I even did a little bit of a study. I painted the Van Gogh sunflowers in a vase because I wanted to get a good feel of like, how did he mix colors? I don't think I did a great job, and you do not need to go this ham, like if you don't want to. But something you'll see throughout this video is that a lot of these skills, painting really can help with embroidery, and embroidering can really help with crochet. And crochet can really help with your sewing skills and measurements. So all of these different crafts, you don't need to be a master of all of them. You can dabble in a few different things, but it will make you better at every other craft that you do, if that makes sense. Anywho, I had my supplies. I got some sequins, I had some needles in a little case, and I went on a road trip to, I think Missouri is where we went, and for like 6 hours I was in a car and I was just embroidering it up. You can see my hoop was also way too small, but that was fine. I just moved it to where I was working. And yeah, I had this beautiful fish, and this was like literally my second embroidery project ever. I am not a master of this. I'm not even the best at sewing. I just used felt for the backing, and I popped this little guy together. Look at that. Wow. I think that turned out really good. Basically, it's just time. It just takes time. Study your references. Like if you are referencing something, I made another bag with fins, and then I wanted to get a little more creative and make a beetle bag. So this is my most recent embroidery project. And I freehanded this one. This is my own design. And I threw on some beads because I had them laying around. I gave him some velvet legs made out of paper clips. I'm telling you, this stuff is cheap, dude. It's literally just time. And the whole point of all of these crafts is that you spend a little less time doom scrolling and a little more time busy with your hands. All right, the second craft is crochet. I know you've probably already seen a bunch of crochet content, but I have to mention it because it's just so versatile and actually pretty cheap if you let it be cheap. I would recommend just getting a simple little, crochet hook set. Metal hooks I think are easier. I do put tape, like masking tape on the end to give it like a little handle. You can buy the ergonomic ones, but they're more expensive. And then at Walmart, they have tons of yarn for, I would say, pretty affordable. I mean, that'll definitely make you a few granny squares, you know. Or if you want a few more colors, a little more bang for your buck, you can go to the dollar store or a specialty store if you want to. I am a sheep farmer, so you would think that I would have gotten into yarn and fiber arts a lot sooner. However, it is so much work to make yarn. It is just a crazy amount of work. I have some Shetland sheep, some Icelandic sheep, and Jacob sheep, and their wools, their fibers, I don't know what you'd even call it. It's not merino, it's not like the fanciest. And I have dabbled in trying to spin. I made myself a little spindle that doesn't work very good. But yeah, you can get as involved as you want, or, you know, I started with acrylic yarn, even as someone with sheep. This was my first granny square. This was my second one. And then I was teaching some crochet basics to kids, and they were teaching me stuff too. Here's my first amigurumi. Here's a turtle that one of my students made, which honestly was really good. And I slowly started to get better. I jumped right into making a cardigan because I was going to be Kuromi for Halloween, and I wanted the Kuromi inspired colors. And, you know, it's not really that good. It's not really that even. And then I moved into making other things like squirmels, if you know, worm on strings. I made an evil one. I started to practice making my tension really good. I used the scrap yarn for earrings, and this is my second cardigan, which was really amazing. And then I wanted to get some crazy patterns in. And the cool thing about crochet, now I'll stop yapping about all my projects, is that you can take a lot of it with you. I have spent lots of time in the car working on my crochet. You can go to a cafe and you can work on it. You could even I've gone to bars before, you guys, and I've just sat and crocheted while having a little drink, which sounds a little bit silly, but if you're someone who's not quite as social, it can be really fun to have something to work on while you're like people watching, and then you can make garments for your creatures. Basically, I just want you guys to take away that you can use whatever materials you need. You can start cheaper. You can use a plastic hook from the dollar store. I don't care what you use. I just want you to start working on it now. You know, I want you to start crocheting now because it's a really fun skill to have. And if you are putting it off because you just feel like, oh, well, I can't afford it, or, you know, and which is fair. Like, truly, I don't know what your circumstances are. You could really be like that, strained for a budget, but I know I put it off for a long time because I felt like, oh, well, if I can't afford the fancy tools and the fancy yarn and the fancy patterns, that maybe I should just not even try. I should just not even start. And that is so sad, you guys. Again, I'm telling you this as a sheep farmer. I have access to endless wool, and I didn't start until I was like 23, you know, and now I've been crocheting for I think about 3 years, and I'm making my own patterns. I'm not even like, I'm just kind of doing what I want, and that can be you if you just start. Please just start with whatever tools you have available to you. You can even find these at like the thrift store, or find a little old lady who will share with you. Okay, we're getting into painting now. Here's watercolors. I think watercoloring is like my favorite thing in the whole entire universe to do, and you don't even have to be like good at it to enjoy it. I would really recommend getting one of these little Altoid tins, and you can get some affordable watercolors. The Winsor & Newton ones are about 10 to 15 bucks, and you can pop them all in a little tin like this, and you'll have a little on-the-go set for really affordable. And then you can get some cheapo brushes. I actually really like that this brush has the quality I need to make a chicken. And that sounds really funny, but I think a lot of people get tripped up on thinking they need the best tools and the best things and the most expensive brushes and the most expensive paint, and you just don't. When you start small. Start where you can afford it, you know? And yeah, I like to have some brushes that get a little dinged up, that get a little messed up, because then when I'm trying to make textures like leaves or foliage or feathers or fur or hair, you don't have to do as much work. If you've ever watched a Bob Ross tutorial, a lot of the time he's like just stamping the brush directly onto the paper. A lot of times where you're actually going to want a brush that's a little bit dinged up. So you don't always have to worry about being super gentle with all your brushes. Of course, you might want to be nice with your fine liners and thinner ones. You know, on this fairy, I have some really small details that I needed to get right. And if you want, you can get some fancy paints. I have some iridescent paint here that I used for her wings and some of her bodice, but you don't need to get crazy if you don't want to. Some cheap paint is fine. If you go to Walmart or any craft store, you can buy the in-house name brand, and that'll be a great place to start. My favorite paint set that I've ever had is Koi watercolors. I really enjoy them. I painted this frog with my kois, I painted this lady with my kois, I painted this one with my kois. So I really like that. I think the set was maybe 30 bucks when I bought it back in 2016, and I still have the same set. The next thing we're talking about is paper crafts, specifically paper dolls, although we could do a whole bunch of different paper crafts. But I introduced these to the kiddos that I worked with, and they freaking loved them. They actually started to ask me to draw different characters and dolls, so I obliged. They wanted dolls that had braids and like different looks to them. My favorite one that I worked on was Business Mermaid. So she's really cute. She has bubble braids and she's a mermaid and a businesswoman, which is pretty cool. And then the kiddos started making their own dolls and making their own worlds, and like this is a little bed. And mixing and matching accessories, and we would play games with the dolls and like role play. It was so fun, and it's so cheap. All you need is access to a printer or paper, or you can just draw the dolls yourself and trace. And again, notebook paper is fine. This little girl actually made her own like world in her notebook. You can see how fun this is. And you can do this as an adult if you want. You can make your own paper dolls. You can make a paper doll house. You can make it 3D if you want to get really crazy. You can find templates on Pinterest for cheap. You don't need the most expensive pencils. You can just use regular Crayola ones. That's what we had. We also did some dragon puppets, which was really cool. And then the kids started making their own. I think this was Among Us, I think. But they started making their own puppets, which was really fun. And yeah, it was just really cool. Please just think like a kid and have fun. All right, we're going to talk about music now. I did put this last because I play violin. I'm really bad at it. I think I stopped lessons when I was like 14. So I only got like 2 or 3 years of lessons. So now I'm kind of trying to figure it out and reteach myself. But I would take my violin to my office and play in my downtime. And I'm sure everyone around me hated it. Because I'm definitely better as just a backtracking violinist, but that's okay. This is what I was talking about, where you have to fight the cringe sometimes. It's okay to be kind of bad at stuff. If you don't want to play violin, you could go get like a little steel drum like this. I would honestly recommend a ukulele. You can get a really decent ukulele for between 20 to 40 bucks. You can even get them cheaper or almost free used because people are buying them all the time. This one I believe was about 40 on Amazon way back when the pandemic started. And I'm still bad at it, and that's okay. Fight the cringe, please. And I recently found a little practice harp, which is kind of cool. Found this, I think it's a mandolin. It was maybe a little on the price, like a little over $100, but it's really beautiful. It's an old instrument. My sister's learning the mandolin now. Go online, you will totally find someone selling an instrument for cheap. Just pick whatever you want to learn. You know, you can find tutorials online. I'm learning a lot of fiddle songs by Fiddlehead. He's a YouTuber here on YouTube, obviously. And yeah, just pick something and learn something. Do the penny whistle, come on. As I close this video out, I hope I inspired you to start a new hobby or craft, or to pick up something that you already are passionate about. You know, just get your hands busy. I don't care what it is, if it's gardening, baking, I don't know, get some chickens, tie some knots, write some fan fiction. I literally don't care. Do whatever, but I'm just begging you to please use your hands and use your brain. It is so good for you, and it's good for everyone. When we all share our skills and passions with each other, what the heck? Please, I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Anyway, if you would like any tutorials for any of the crafts that I did, I would love to make them for you. If you want more long form content, I would love to do that as well. Just let me know, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.